All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus channel, presented by Connors and Ferris, Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. Mike Catalana is at home today. We won't worry about him, but...
Don't worry about Mike.
Don't worry about him. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content. You can also tell a friend as well. We're here at practice. It's Thursday before the Bills take on the Bears in Chicago for the preseason finale. And Dan, for our 5 takeaways, let's start with the biggest one. The starters will be playing in preseason game number 3.
Don't love it.
It's so funny because I was asked earlier this week on a radio show, like, do you expect the starters to play? And I said, in years past, no, of course not. But the way they played on Saturday and the way Sean McDermott is, I was like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. So standing here on Thursday, I'm not surprised, but I'm kind of like, okay.
I think it's a hair of an overreaction. I think it's a Sean McDermott hair of an overreaction to what they did from their performance against the Steelers. I think it's so much of, we got to get things right. We got to get things right. I have been a proponent of this before. Bubble wrap Josh Allen, send him down to the Meadowlands. We're all good. I don't think that one drive, either way, is going to make and break our perception of where we think this offense is, where this offensive line is. If Spencer Brown makes 2 good plays and they have a long touchdown, does that mean that all of a sudden
It's
fixed?
Yeah.
It's not. So again, injuries and staying healthy is more important. And I understand getting on tempo, getting on rhythm, all of those things are important, but I think some of that stuff you can get in practice. So little concerned. I don't love the decision. Again, I think I would just be happier to get to the Meadowlands, but I know that Sean McDermott says each preseason is different. That was his reasoning. He said last week when they were going to play that's what the military does. That they have these dress rehearsals. They don't just throw them out there. So he said, he was asked if them playing, the starters playing this upcoming Saturday, had anything to do with the Steelers game. He said pretty much no. He just pretty much said that every preseason is different, and this is what he thinks is best for the team.
Yeah, he said it was the decision he felt like made the most sense. You're right. I feel like it is. I don't want to say an overreaction.
It's a hair.
It's
a Sean McDermott hair.
It's.
Get it?
Does he?
Get it?
But he.
Yeah.
But no, I think I don't love the decision either. I think you're right. Will a series either way really change the outlook we have on this team? Will things be all shored up after one series? Then I go, well, does that mean they're going to play more than a series?
Yeah.
And which could lead to obviously leaving yourself open to injuries, especially, that's obviously not at all what anyone wants during the preseason, but it is the reality of it. They want to get that taste of the Steelers game out of their mouth, whether Sean McDermott talks about that or not. Let's be real. A lot of penalties, some ugly plays, Josh running around for his life. I think that is a huge... If it looked good against the Steelers, they would not be doing this.
I agree.
So it's them trying to clean things up heading into the season. I don't love it, but I see why Sean... I don't approve of it, but I see why Sean would want to.
It's a reactionary decision. Whether or not you want to say it's an overreaction, that's fine, and I can understand if you disagree with it. But I think in a perfect world, heading into the preseason, Sean said starters aren't going to play games 1 and 3. They're going to play game 2. But with how poorly they played in game 2, I think Sean said, hey, let's change things up, which is fine. It's what he's allowed to do. And I understand as a coach, you have to be able to adapt and change and change on a dime here. So I understand it. I think it's just a reactionary decision because if you would have asked Sean McDermott before the preseason, which games and when do you want them to play, I think he just says game 2.
I think that's fair. Fair assessment. He's allowed to change his mind. I think the Bills are doing that now. Will it make all the difference in the world? I don't know, but obviously Sean McDermott thinks it might make a difference.
Yep.
Let's talk starters in terms of middle linebacker. Once again out here today, Terrell Bernard, he practiced in a limited capacity, it seemed like yesterday.
Yeah.
Today he was back on the sidelines doing some of the work with the trainers once again. So not really an encouraging sign in terms of that. Hamstring injuries are really tough. We talked about it. So it's Tyrell Dotson, it's AJ Klein, and we are we are sprinting towards the start of the season. And this is something we talked about of Tremaine Edmonds, you knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
But where the team is at now, it's like, it's a precarious spot.
Yeah, they seem to be rotating pretty much 50-50 at practice, who gets the reps with the ones and so on and so forth. We saw Dotson playing into the 4th quarter of the preseason game against the Steelers. I don't know if also that's some form of punishment We saw it out of Cleveland. The coach was talking about, Kevin Stefanski talks about how that
Yeah.
if you get in a fight and you're a starter, you then have to play the preseason. If you are a guy trying to make the team and you get in a fight, you don't get to play. I kind of like it.
I think it's so dumb.
A lot of these guys, I've said this before, for the preseason, 30% preseason means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
For the other 30, there's the next 30%, they're trying to earn playing time. The last 30%, it's the most important game of their life. So you take some of that away. That if you're a starter and you fight, okay, well, you don't really want to play, you don't really like the preseason, you got to play now.
I just think talk about like leading yourself to unnecessary risk for one of your starters. So he started.
Then don't get in a fight.
Yeah, but also it's a fight. It's not like
You can make a decision on whether or not you're going to fight and swing at a teammate.
I agree, but I just think that's I don't really understand. Like I read that and I was
Yeah.
like, that to me makes no sense.
Tangent. Back to the middle linebacker position. We are seeing that there is no clear-cut decision. We feel like we have understanding at cornerback too that it is Dane Jackson's job. Kyer again running with the twos. Christian Benford actually got some reps in with the ones today.
Yeah.
Again, it's a practice. Take it for what it's worth. A very light practice today. They were not in pads.
Correct.
Everything was at 50% speed. So I'm not overreacting. But again, Jenna, I don't think they know what they want to do. And the biggest indictment, while Sean did say the positive, last week he said that there was room for improvement for middle linebackers. He did say they were better yesterday and they needed to build off that. Baby steps. Baby steps. Talking with my hands a lot today.
That scares me. We were asked on our Buffalo Plus live taping yesterday what the biggest concern was. You had Ken Dorsey, Mike had the offensive line, I had middle linebacker, and I feel confident in where I'm at. But speaking of the offensive line, a little bit something different today.
David Edwards. So Connor McGovern is injured. He did not practice today. We don't know to what severity.
I didn't see him out here at all.
He was not out here at all. Also didn't see Shane Ray out here, didn't see Von Miller. So whether they were training in the facility as we were practicing outside. David Edwards got all of the reps at left guard where Connor McGovern has been playing. I don't know who David Edwards is.
I got the book.
He's a veteran, and
We can look it up.
he plays left guard. So that's all I really know. Ryan Bates, again, continues to rotate at right guard with Osiris Torrance. I think they really want Bates to be the backup center, and they're so scared to seemingly move him around. But I don't have any analysis here on David Edwards, but he took all of the reps at left guard.
Something to note. I think I was shocked by the Connor McGovern injury because that was something that, I was not expecting. He practiced on Tuesday.
Yeah, little worrisome there because he's been pretty solid.
He has, yeah.
And when asked if it's a day-to-day thing, Sean McDermott didn't know, and he said it's so early to tell, which is never usually a positive of, hey, we're just going to figure it out in a few days and he's going to be back. So alarm bells starting to ring for me on an already wounded offensive line.
Oh, my God. This is... All right.
Fine.
But David Edwards,
It's
everything's
August.
fine.
It's August.
It is... It's still technically August.
Quentin
Morris. Thank you. Quentin Morris, one of the tight ends who's now his third year with the team. It was funny. We got to talk to him today. You know, he's had a couple of nice catches on the field. He's contributed a little bit. He's definitely a guy that looks at his role as special teams and all that stuff. We got to talk to him today. He was so pleasant.
I think last year was kind of his breakout year where he had a couple moments. It was funny. He talks about how when he made the team 2 years ago, they messed up his nameplate and spelled Quentin wrong. On his locker. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, he's the forgotten tight end at this point of the season. We are all talking about Dawson Knox and Dalton. Yeah, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. He joked around, Jenny, you asked him about the fact of, is it hard to keep them straight? Because it is for me.
Well, when you're yelling Dawson and Dalton, it sounds so similar. They're both DK. He was talking about, like, yeah, you're not going to lie. Like, you really have to enunciate. And
he said he called him when
DK.
Dalton got drafted. He's like, yeah, it's DK. And then he's like, wait a second. That doesn't work. Because sometimes they both turn. Sometimes they both look. Yeah.
That was something that I thought was pretty funny. And then he also talked about how all the tight ends have bracelets that they wear of just like
family and unselfishness.
That's the characteristics they wanted out of their room. And I think he is a perfect example of a guy being unselfish because you have Oh my God, I panicked because I'm like, you have Dawson Knox, you have this first round pick in Dalton Kincaid, and it's like, okay, you have Quentin Morris, a guy who played at Boise State. Like, it's not quite the same. So I think he was really interesting to talk to today. I think he knows his role. It's I can be whatever you need me to be, and I'm going to try and be the best that I can be at it. And there's that.
He had moments last year. I think he flashed a couple times. Again, I thought he was one of the training camp darlings of the preseason and training camp last year, but obviously he's been a little bit overlooked. But I think he understands the role of it's a long season, and if something were to happen, I would be ready.
Yeah. I'm trying to count the other ones that we talked about.
I know that.
No, well, that's...
We did middle linebacker, guard, starters playing.
Oh, I can't. This is good. This is bad. All right. Michael Vick was at practice today.
The Michael Vick.
He was on the sidelines, and I'm like, wait. And then you're like, is that Michael Vick?
So, and he was, the first time we noticed him was he was talking to Matt Barkley, which we then quickly connected the dots that their time overlapped in Philly. And then we also connected that his time overlapped in Philly with Sean McDermott. So that's where they have that connection, the Philly ties in. He's not an overly big figure. Like, I think it's the aura of Mike Vick is bigger than the actual physical being. But it's Mike Vick. It is so cool.
I mean, the players were loving it.
It was like a Taylor Swift concert. It was like everybody needed to take the picture.
Can you take my picture?
Hey, it's Mike Vick. That was a really cool moment. Quentin Morris talked about it too, growing up. Big video game guy that he would always play with Mike Vick and things like that. So, and he told them that they needed to find what motivates them. That was what their goal is, to take them.
Find that spark.
Find
that spark, which I think is really interesting because I don't know how it came about that he came to practice, but obviously these players very much have an impression of Michael Vick and the absolute respect in terms of what these guys were talking about. So,
he's Mike Vick.
Maybe what he did for the game.
And also, funny, Matt Perino from Syracuse.com mentioned that Josh Allen is kind of the new Mike Vick.
Yeah.
Everybody plays with him on video games, and he just does things that we've never seen quarterbacks do.
Yeah.
What Mike Vick did, running the football with his massive arm, all of those things changed the game. And now we see Josh running over linebackers, hurdling linebackers. That's the kind of thing that we hadn't seen before. Yeah. And that's why, again, I think they're both well-respected and well-liked in that realm of the game of football.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you said, it was very light practice today. The Bills with the day off tomorrow before they get set to go to Chicago, facing off against the Bears in the preseason finale. Again, Josh Allen and the starters will play. We'll have an update of the players that we're looking out for in this final game of the preseason. One second here. I can't believe we're here at this point. The season feels so close. There's cut down day coming up, which is obviously a huge day for this team, for the NFL, picking up other players as well. This roster is going to change a lot in the next week.
With players coming in.
And if a guy makes it through the initial wave of cuts, that doesn't always mean that it's not going to be a later cut at another point. So if you have a guy that you're really looking forward towards being on the team, unless it's the guys that we know, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have a lot of very challenging decisions ahead.
And they're not easy. And like I said, challenging decisions. And I know people have mentioned in the comments they think this is the best team that's rounded around Josh Allen and things like that. We disagree. I think there have been better offensive lines. I think there have been better skill position players too around him. Dalton Kincaid could be the guy that flips what this team really is rounded out to be. Yeah. But I think there were some times 2020 was we forget how really good that offense was. Yeah. And so it's a different offense different roster that this team's trying to build.
It's really interesting though, the national media's perspective and how down they're on this team. That to me is something that, what was it, Chris Broussard talking about how he doesn't think Sean McDermott is a leader. Yep. Obviously the shenanigans with Stephen A. Smith saying Diggs doesn't want to be in Buffalo. The Bills really feel counted out against, who was it just picked? The Patriots to win the AFC East. Yeah.
My point to that too is that I feel like national media, national news out of Buffalo travels slowly. So I think, especially with Stephen A., I think he heard about Stephon Diggs' drama.
That's probably fair.
And then hasn't checked in at all in Buffalo. And then went, oh, we're talking about the Bills? Stephon Diggs ain't showing up. And it's he's been here, he's talked, it's all over. Yeah. So I don't think that, some of these things, like Chris Broussard saying some of these things, leaders, again, I think that goes back to the offseason when they were talked about it more. A lot has changed in the 3 to 4 weeks since the Bills have reported at training camp. So.
Yeah.
And one last thing, too, another video will be coming up. If you weren't there at our Buffalo Plus live show, podcast, meet and greet yesterday as we record this, it'll be up soon. Awesome event. Thank you so much for everybody that came out. Really cool. Jenna cried. It was perfect.
That's usual. Dan and I talked about it in the car. It was really surreal. It was really cool. Our families were there. Just getting to see some of our really, like, diehard fans in Rochester come out, and it was an awesome night. So we appreciate everyone.
First of many.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, so that was really cool. So we want to thank everyone who went to that, and also if you are interested, we'll hopefully have more coming in the future, and we'll
Buffalo.
get in Buffalo and things of that nature. So thank you so much for everyone, all the time. Let's hear your opinions on in terms of where your level of concern is and your thoughts on the starters playing in the preseason finale. So for Dan, I'm Jenna. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, as well as subscribe if you enjoy our content. And then, check out the Buffalo Plus store too, buffaloplusstore.com. Thanks, guys.